It's the Taunton Chamber of Commerce, jointly with Paul Smith from Word Gets Around, and we're going to be looking at branding this morning. So over to you, Paul.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar today. Thank you to Bethan and Taunton Chamber of Commerce for inviting me. Delighted to share some advice and tips and discussion today, and recognise lots of faces there, so it's good to see you there. So we're going to head over to, there's lots of slides today. It's not death by PowerPoint. There's 64 slides. I like to have lots of visuals because it helps cement ideas to images. There'll be some work for you to do during it as well. So you're going to need to do some thinking if you've not had the coffee. It will kick in hopefully in a couple of minutes. But yeah, it's wanted to be sort of at the end, a nice time for some discussion and ideas. So I'm just going to share my screen now. And off we go. You all see that okay? Excellent. So word gets around. So today we are going to obviously discuss branding. We're going to look at what is branding, your business and your brand, print versus pixel, and how you can maximize your brand on a budget. But first of all, if I can click here. First of all, we're called Word Gets Around. Why are we called Word Gets Around? Well, partly it's the name of the favorite debut album, my favorite band is Stereophonics, but more so, it was very apt for where the world lies today. In the 21st century, it's very much a transparent, it's all about word of mouth, and it's very much about marketing, how people hear about your business. So that's why we went for that name, and give scope to grow into different areas of marketing, digital, whether it's in print as well, or anything that's passed around that people hear and pass on to somebody else by word of mouth. So very quickly, not too much, just a quick overview of what we're about. So big part of it is design. I've got a GCE in colouring in from university. So over the years, I've created some work with some wonderful businesses, startups, companies that have rebranded, companies that have got 60 staff, some people that are just starting out. And second part of what we do is our magazine. So this is the Taunton issue, we've got a West Somerset issue as well. But we're very much about promoting businesses online, offline, and face-to-face with the third point, which is our networking group, which is coming up to 9 years in Taunton. So very much about helping people to grow their business in lots of ways. So this morning, I woke up, well, I got woken up by the children rushing around doing their hair at 7:25 this morning. Checked my phone like you do. Popped to the loo, washed my hands, of course, because I'm a good boy while singing happy birthday. Went downstairs, fed the fish. Then I had the cat scratching at my feet to have her food, so she had that. Popped the kettle on, put some Mr. Miles tea in my cup, got some milk out of the fridge, I went upstairs, had a shave, had a shower, used some deodorant, and then I put my wonderful Slazenger pants on, my lucky pants. Then I put on my jeans, my Levi's, went downstairs, had some Weetabix, some vitamins to get me going for the day. Back upstairs, gelled my hair, put on some aftershave, brushed my teeth, used some mouthwash, popped on my shoes, grabbed a coat just in case, which is pretty pointless today because it's pretty warm outside already, jumped in my car and popped on Absolute Radio, listened to the 90s music on the way to work. Now the point being that is 23 logos that I have seen in the first 30 minutes of me waking up this morning. So the minute you open your eyes, you're exposed to a world of brands. They're all around us, whether you consciously see them or not. You're seeing these, and yours obviously will be very different, the things that you see. But it might be worth tomorrow having a look at the different brands you just cast your eye on as you wake up in the morning. So first of all, what is a brand and what is branding? So I would like to open it up to you to throw it out with what you think you understand by this term. So we might need people to put their hand up, maybe Bethan, and then they ask. But anybody like to say what they think a brand is? They're all being a bit shy. Oh, Kit, there we go.
All right, just bear with me. Okay.
Is it the emblem of your company, the symbol by which people recognise your company or your product?
Yes, that's a big part of it, yeah.
The way you differentiate your product?
Yeah. Excellent. Anyone else? Okay. All right, well, we'll crack on. Great point, Kit. Absolutely. Pop back onto here. So what is a brand? So a brand obviously can be, it can be a name, it can be a term, like as Kit said, a symbol, a feature, something that's memorable. A brand can be a product, it can be a service, it can represent an organization or even a person, such as Roger Federer or Beyonce, etc. But a brand ultimately is an experience of a particular product, say service. And so what is branding in that case? Well, branding is really, branding aims to establish a sort of significant and differentiated presence in your market to retain your customers. So there's some really good definitions which I like about branding. Now, one of them is a bit cheesy because it's a bit American, but ultimately branding is about winning the eyes, hearts, and minds of people. So if you can crack that formula and that people know you in their eye, their heart, and their mind, that's a really good way for people to understand your business. Now, a definition I like more of is if you think of it like a spirit level. So you've got kind of ultimately wanting to strike a perfect balance between what you want your business to be seen as and represented to what other people perceive it to be. So a big part of branding is obviously about perception and building trust and saying being distinctive. That's a big part of it. Is really people understanding when they see your business what it's all about. So one of the big things, it is important, but a brand isn't just your logo. A lot of people say, oh, I need a new brand. And when you look at a logo, a lot of people that I work with, particularly startups, and I often say to them, okay, so your logo ultimately is a badge. It's something that when people see, they understand all the things about your business and what it wants to achieve and its values, etc. So I've worked with a business and said, okay, let's create this wonderful logo. But what's your business about? Who do you want to attract? Where do you sit in the market? How are you different? And often it's a case of they don't know those answers. And we'll look at that later on. But if people struggle with that, then how can you create an emblem for something when you don't understand what's beneath the water, underneath the surface of what the heart of the brand is about? And there's two wonderful definitions that I really like, which I'll share with you now, two quotes. Oh, in a minute, sorry. I just want you to think of this. If you look at Elvis, we all know Elvis. Some of us will know him more than others. But when you look at this image of Elvis, you look at him here, you look at his shoes, you look at his stance. All of us in our heads now are probably humming to an Elvis tune, or we're thinking about Colonel Parker, or we're thinking about Las Vegas, or the time that he was in the army. We're looking, just by looking at this image, we have this whole space in our brains that we have about Elvis, a little shelf dedicated to Elvis in our brains about what we understand by him. And that's down to the music, that's down to his voice, down to all the things that he stood for. So this picture is a representation of the logo of what Elvis is about. So if we look at this chap, you know, what do we think of him? Does anybody know who he is? Probably not. You're probably all shaking your heads. And the reason is I don't know who he is either. I just went on the line, chose a young guy, found a picture of him. The point being that if he's a logo, if he represents a business, we just have to go on face value. We don't know who he is, what he's about. Our awareness, our branding awareness of this guy is very low. We don't know. We think, well, he might be a TikTok star or a YouTuber. He looks around early 20s, good looking guy, he might be a model. You know, where is he based? We don't know. We can't go. We can only go by what we see in the picture. We know nothing outside of this image about this guy. So when you see this, that's all we have to go on. So branding is all about building that perception over time and building up that brand equity. So brand equity is when you sort of refer to the brand's perceived worth of a brand. So it has social value. So how well known and respected it is. So for instance, if Nike started selling marshmallows tomorrow, a lot of people would buy marshmallows because it has the Nike name on it. They have a high brand equity attached to them. What we understand by Nike is all the things that have gone with them over the time, that part of the brain of Nike that we understand. So this is the quote I meant. So this wonderful quote by Mayer here. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's what branding's pretty much all about, is when you see that logo, we all have a reaction to that logo, how we feel about that particular brand, that service, that product, that person. We all look at that, whether we consciously want to or not, we all have that. And the second quote here. Your smile is your logo, your personality is your business card. How you leave others feeling after an experience will become your trademark. So lots of you that go networking, it's the overall picture of your business. So you might have a wonderful logo. People might not know what your business is, but they talk to you. And that's why it's important, the overall package of branding, particularly if you own your own businesses like we do, we pretty much are kind of the business. We are an extension of our businesses, and it's the relationship that people get with us. So it's vitally important that how you make people feel is the lasting impression of businesses. So when we look at the McDonald's logo, for instance, you know, one of the most iconic symbols in the world, along with Coca-Cola, We will all have very different perceptions of this logo. We'll all look at this and we'll think of it in different ways. Some people will think about it as wonderful family time, growing up as a kid. They maybe think about Happy Meal characters they collected, etc., etc. Well, some of us will look at this and we'll get very upset, angry, maybe about how they used to eat unhealthy food for children, the consumerism around McDonald's, and the big corporate machine that goes along. But why do we often ask this to people that we want to speak to about marketing? Why do McDonald's still advertise? Why do they need to? We all know McDonald's. The reason being it's to remain at the top, it's to remain at the forefront of people's minds. And it's also to reinforce the message that you want them to think your business stands for. Now, another example here, Chewy obviously had a real rough ride of lots of companies this year. And I had a very bad experience with them this year, trying to get our holiday money sorted, etc., etc. Now, the thing about that is you see that logo, my relationship with their logos changed, it's calmed down in the last 2 months, because I've seen that obviously it's been an unprecedented year, that word of the year, but it's how they react, how we use our customer service, how we put things out, our marketing message that shape, when we see this logo, how we feel about that particular business. So when we talk about brands, often in the design world, and it's a good way to explain, is the tip of the iceberg, is to look at it like an iceberg. So the top part is the visible brand. So that's all the things that people can see whether you're there or not. So your logo, your tagline, your offering, and your identity. So beyond just having your actual logo, you're going to want a series of brand assets that go with it. By that, I might mean your email signature, or if a part of your logo, say, has a triangle in it, you might want to use a watermark triangle on some of your letterheads, or something that you use in your social media posts that continues the theme, the visual identity of your business. But the big part of branding isn't the visual side. It's when people come to me for a logo, it's the looking below the surface. It's the perceived brand. It's looking at the positioning. It's looking at the differentiation. How are you different in the market? What's your promise to people? What are your core values? What do you stand by? When people see your logo, what do you want them to think about you? What's your mission? Why do you exist? What's your personality? What's your voice? And these are all these things that you need to establish in your business before you go out and actively try and get people to believe in it. Because if you don't believe in it in yourself, how are they going to believe in the mission and what your business stands for? So often people start the wrong way around. They come up with a nice logo and then they work backwards. Or sometimes it's difficult. If you're a new business, you don't know. I was myself, you go on a journey and your business evolves as it goes on. It's important, particularly this year, a lot of businesses have taken the time where they've had, when their particular market's gone quiet, they've had time to take stock of things and look at what's changed. What can we do different? Are the things that we set out to do at the start, are they still relevant? Do we still believe in them? So it's looking at those things. One of the big things when I started, and a lot of us have this with imposter syndrome, is really believing who we are and staying true to who we are. And I use this quote a lot. So comparison is the thief of joy. And I had this a lot earlier on because I looked at the market. Where do I sit within that? And actually trying to conform to what everybody else is doing ends up with a website with very bland stock website shots that don't really show the essence of your business, which looks quite bland. So it's standing out and staying true to who you are. So when I first started out, I was looking at the competition, see what they're saying and how you can be different. And actually what I found was they all said similar things. We're a creative, dynamic design studio. Well, you kind of hope you are. You're a graphic design agency. What else you got? That's kind of a given, isn't it, right? And the second point is being yourself. Oscar Wilde, be yourself, everyone else is taken. And we all go this. I speak to lots of different people who really worry about putting themselves out there, and ultimately, if you're a small business owner and your business is an extension of yourself and those relationships you build up with people. So we all go through this time to time of do I say I believe this, or we believe this as a company? Do I speak in the first person, the third person? But ultimately, it's about you and your relationship with the people that you meet. So don't fake it, being your authentic self and investing in people. And we all know that people buy from people that they like, they get to know over time and they trust. And they will be advocates for your brand. They'll talk about you and your business and why your business is great. So one of the big things I want to say is to look at, know who you are and what you stand for. So what are your brand values? Do you know what your brand values are of your company? Can you put those across to other people quite clearly that they understand? Who's your target market? You may have several, depends on your business, but have you really nailed down into how your target market is different? Who are you trying to market to and how? What's your brand positioning? Where are you with the competition? How do you sit amongst them? Have you looked at all your competition and picked out pros and cons and seen where does things stand out that's different to your business? Yeah, and ultimately what makes you different to all of those types of businesses that are out there. So let's quickly look at this as a sort of case study. So with brand position, I just want a little case study to explain. So the insurance market is, you know, I guess generally quite a boring subject to talk about. And for a long time, it was kind of these two players. It was the phone. We had about 15 years of the phone, and then the little mouse arrived as the internet really took off. And then we had the Churchill dog that become sort of emblems of Direct Line and Churchill. And as a sort of disruptive brand that came along later on, we had the NatWest pigs, which many of you maybe have collected, worth quite a bit of money now, if you've still got those. And that was kind of it. That's all we kind of had. And then we had a load of random meerkats pop up as a disruptive brand. And really, someone sat around, almost imagine it's our work experience. Oh, let's just do something with meerkats. Oh, don't be so stupid. Well, it sounds like compare the market. Sounds like compare the meerkats. But it was great because they came in and they made insurance cool. You know, they made it funny, they made it approachable, and really kind of changed the market in insurance. Then we also had this gentleman here from Go Compare, which came in. Now, one of the cases I like to use is Confused.com were the first insurance search engine that came out. So first online comparison site, and they started off with, you know, a lot of a lower budget back then, so this kind of cartoon thing. And I was just very fascinated, as I have been this year with brands and how they've reacted, is Confused.com almost ironically were confused themselves with who they were when these meerkats came along. They tried to sort of fit in and bring out a load of robots and, you know, fit in as cool, these cute characters. But actually people kind of hated them. And they ended up just destroying one of the robots in one of their adverts. It just didn't work. And really, it's about knowing your customers and evolving your business, you know, and looking what the competition are doing and keeping up with them. So a really good example is Direct Line evolving from this to, you know, Harvey Cartel, which they've recently done, because they know their market. And Money's Supermarket, the people that are in their 40s now, like myself, that grew up with Skeletor, He-Man and Action Man, these are the people now making the buying decisions and buying insurance that they need. You need to relate to these people. So they've done fantastic in terms of getting people on board with, yeah, okay, part of a gimmick, but saying that, you know, we get you, you know, this is what's fun. Insurance can be fun. So I found this quite an interesting sort of case study and how it's evolved. And then poor old sort of Confused.com, you know, they've gone back to their original, don't be confused, be Confused.com. They even tried here to get James Corden involved. He's really fun, he's really popular. Let's just get James Corden and spend millions of pounds. And it didn't work because it had good, great entertainment value of James Corden whizzing around in a car, but the brand recall was really low. Nobody knew what he was advertising. Oh, there's that James Corden advert. It didn't work. And in the end, they axed it for that very reason. And I say they went on that journey, got Timothy Murphy back in and went back into Don't Be Confused, be Confused.com. So looking at how your business has changed and how other people are adapting, keeping up with the competition is really important. So really know your brand personality. How is your business different? Now, when I was a kid, I used to go around and my mum would go and fill the shopping up with my sister, and my sister would put things in and my mum would take it back out. But I would go off my dad, and he got me obsessed with supermarkets. Now, I have been chucked out of Morrison's once for taking pictures by security. I was actually with a client. Now, if you think of a supermarket, as I say to lots of the students that I work with at the college, a supermarket is a library of brands. It's current, it's moving every day, it's changing. You can go into a supermarket. Now, I know we all run lots of services ourselves, service businesses, but as products, you've got everything that you would want to see here. You've got brand differentiation, you've got color theory, you've got typography. So if you can see the brands next to each other, you can see how they stand out. You can look at disruptive brands. I remember, I think it was early 90s, when it was Vanish came along. And everything was white and made to look clean. And Vanish suddenly put this bright pink packaging that sort of shone like a beacon as a disruptive brand that stood out, you know. And now you can look at the supermarket and the bright colors and have a look at the bakery aisle. And that's the one I got chucked out for. We were taking pictures of baking products. But have a look at the crisps, have a look at the chocolate, and have a look round at how you can see how they're different. Now, when I worked for an agency for a while, we did this with a pet food brand. And we went into the supermarket and we were looking at dog food. We rebranded a dog food company. Now we looked at, you think, well, dog food's dog food. Of course, you've got IAMS. It's a very high-end science-based dog food. You've then got Chappie and Oscar and Sheba, which is kind of middle-aged ladies that carry dogs around under their arm, where it's that, you know, probably has its own branded cushion and that kind of thing. And then you've got man's best friend, and then you've got country-style dogs, and you've got, you know, working dogs. So you're just looking at the dog market, you can see how they're all different, how they're all shouting, me, 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 me. So next time you're in the supermarket, just have a look at how the different colours are and just see how it's worked in that particular market. So one of the things to say is if you're looking at your brand personality, so if I was to say to you, here's three people represented by 3 products. We've got Chanel No. 5, we've got a pot noodle and Red Bull energy drink. If I was to say to them, you've got to go out this Saturday night with one of these personalities, and I said, one of you is going to go to Mambo's, one of you is going to go to Wetherspoons, and one of you is going to go to Braz maybe in Taunton. You can easily, without, you know, knowing too much, you all know which one would be paired up with which particular watering hole, because it's what we understand by the personalities brands. They have very distinctive brands. So obviously Chanel is very sophisticated luxury brand. Pot noodle is, you know, we think of, or we used to think of builders, you know, sat there having a pot noodle, or students having pot noodles. And of course Red Bull's about having energy, keep going. You know, you might have that to keep you going if you've got a busy life. So we all, just by looking at these, we can imagine these as people, because we understand what their personalities are about. So next time you're in the supermarket, is there a product that exists that kind of sums up you or your business? That you could say, you know, this is kind of near whereabouts where we are. Now for us, I've done this ourselves, and I think probably Innocent Smoothies is probably the most similar to us. We're not afraid to be different. You know, we like to be quite fun with our marketing. I used to have a picture of a cat on my website, the first website. You know, that was a bit out there, but it got me lots of people to understand my personality and the journey that I'd been on. It actually won me lots of business because I told my story of how I started out. So personality is really important, and the journey of your business. I think Innocent Smoothies still have the timeline of when in the 90s they started Innocent Smoothies, when they had floppy 90s hair. And it still says, shake before you undo it. Because stupidly, one of the guys come in hungover once when they were making their smoothies and forgot, took the lid off and then shook it and then got covered in smoothie. And I think it was still on their website till recently. So the brand story, telling your story is so important. And people love storytelling. And I sort of say in 500 years ago, 500 years from now, whatever happens technology-wise or print-wise, we're still going to have storytelling from years and years. So telling your story and people being a part of your brand journey is very important. So if you look at your business, it's worth thinking, if your brand were a person, can you choose 4 to 5 personality sort of adjectives that would describe your business? So would you see your business as bright? Would you see it as excellent, knowledgeable, witty, zany, adaptable? How would you describe your business in 5 words? Now, I'd like you to share this with me, maybe not now, we haven't got time, but if you wanted to share it with the chamber, that would be great. If you could think of 5, that's the kind of personality of your business, that'd be great. There's some examples there. And of course, if you're watching this back, it will help you to pluck some of those out of there. More importantly, as a branding exercise, is to do this. So it's to write down, what do you do, and fill that in. Who do you do it for? Why do you do it better? And why do you do it? Now, the big thing is, going back to the original, I need a logo for my business, is the logo just represents your business. If you don't understand these 4 questions, if you're struggling with it, then how do you expect your customers to understand it if you don't yourself? So I've actually turned people away before who were doing startup businesses because I said, you need to go through this process, because until you understand this, why do you do it? Well, just you don't do things to just make money. You know, you have a reason to do something. You know, why do you do it better? Have you looked at your competition? Have you seen what they're doing and why you're different? So once you know all this, you've got your whole brand marketing mapped out, because then you can look at the brand language, the tone of language, how you put things out, how you reach these people and market to them. So if you've got a very niche market, you can say, well, the big mistake is if you're a starter, oh, I need to be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe your market is on Pinterest. You know, if you've got an interior design company, for instance, it's very visual. Pinterest and Instagram are probably the kind of social media platforms that would be best for you. So have a look at this. If you struggle with this, then you probably need to do some work on this. Or maybe you've done this before and you need to go back and have a look at it because it's changed. It's really important you go back. And I said a lot of people during lockdown came back to me and said, now I've got some time, I want to come back and change things a little bit because things have evolved. So be consistent in your look and communication. Lots of people, you know, they change their logo and stretch it in their colors and their fonts. You know, there's an importance of color consistency. So if we look at these logos, they should hopefully make you feel a bit, because we already understand that, you know, what we understand by these brands, that hopefully that should look a lot better because we understand the color theory. And 85% of the top 100 companies in the world are only 2 colors for that reason, that they're memorable and also more cost effective to print. So color theory is really important. Now have a quick look at print versus pixel. So in a digitally optimized world, customer targeting has never been easier, but we now receive 10,000 marketing messages a day. It's never been harder to cut through the noise. So it's great. We've got all these Facebooks, you know, social media is free, brilliant, but we spend more time than ever trying to get our message out there. Years ago, we used to have lots of mail that would come through every day, and that's kind of dwindled over time. Now, my background's in design for print. I worked for a printer for 6.5 years, and so we have our own magazines. And some of my friends thought I was crazy when we set up a magazine. Why would you want to do that? And we hear this lots of the time. It's all online these days, mate. You know, everything's online. And of course, lots of it is. But print very much has a place, which we'll look at now. Now, Royal Mail spent lots of money on a study looking into marketing, direct marketing, mail, etc. So how do you stand out again among those thousands of messages a day? Well, the truth is that mail's is remembered more, 49% more than email. Mail's much more engaging. You know, you have a 33% stronger brain response than email and over social media advertising. The good thing about, well, say social media is free, but you're in a sea of digital noise. You scroll past something, and if people don't watch it, it's gone. The next day, it's gone. It's superseded by stuff all the time. That's not to say that we don't love digital, of course, because we do. We build websites, we help people with social media. But mail is much more engaging. And it makes a lasting impression. So if we look at the strength of the brain response, over social media and email, mail has a powerful impact on long-term memory coding. Mail cuts through all of the noise that's online because it's remembered. So why print? Why do we still work in print? Why do we use it? Well, print very much still has a place. It's much more tangible. You can hold print in your hand. It reinforces your brand, so people see your conversations on Twitter or Facebook, but they can then hold it in their hand. They'll keep it. It has more credibility because it's not something that anything digital. There's lots of pop-up. I'm seeing at the moment lots of pop-up Facebook sites, which I'm very wary of for people, where there's just an email, a Gmail account, and no physical address of the business, and lots of these are scammers. You know, so print very much has reinforces your credibility that you're a local business with your phone number. It's a much less saturated market. It's much more easier now to market your business in print than ever because there's less print going around at the moment, and it's a higher retention rate. So people keep hold of print. If it's well designed and memorable, they will keep it. And as I said before, it has a much higher engagement. So there's over 600 plus TV channels. And then now, you know, when I was a kid, we had 4 TV stations. And now I don't even watch live. I don't even have terrestrial TV. That is absolutely crazy. I watch no terrestrial TV at all. So there's so many channels. To try and get your message out there now is harder than ever. 700 plus million websites, radio stations, newspapers and magazines that are out there. And how many social media posts a day? Millions. But there's only one letterbox. Still one letterbox comes through your door, people hold on to it. Now what we're doing and what you can do, the clever thing to do is what we're evolving, is linking print with the experience of digital. So this is a great little direct mail thing here that's come through Home Sweet Home. And this is from IKEA. So IKEA have used direct mail that comes through, you open it up, there's a little bit about, if you give us your email address, we'll send you some lovely stuff in your inbox, and you can go online to their website. So there's an offer, there's a kickback on the digital side. So the first touch point is, here's the IKEA thing that's come through your door. The second action is to go online and get your gift. It's also looking beyond your website. So this is a lady I work with, Kate, Windmill Farm Flowers, come up with the logo for her. And her catchphrase was homegrown, not flown. So it was, you know, let's stop all the flowers that are flown over from France to lots of the supermarkets. These are grown here, I think in Langport, Langport, Somerset. So how can you extend the touch point beyond something that's digital? Well, what we did, we intentionally are told we had some uncoated business cards printed. Now there's no point somebody having, who goes for the whole organic natural flowers, have plastic coated business cards. That makes no sense. So we had nice, thick, uncoated cards that smelt nice of print. They were tangible. We could hold them in your hand. But we took it a step further. So I said to her, what you want to do is get a drawer full of lavender and take all your business cards out of the box and leave them in there. So when you pass your card on to people, it smells of flowers. It's another sense of your business. People understand what your business is about. It's not wrapped up in plastic. It's locally grown. It's, you know, and it's that it's that lasting impression that you can create that doesn't cost the earth. It's something that is an extension of your brand. Now, one of the challenges that a lot of companies have is they have an online shop, they sell online, e-commerce is easier than ever. So if you've got your little online shop at the bottom, the biggest challenge you've got is you're probably using either eBay, Amazon, or Etsy to sell your products. Now, the hardest thing to do is if somebody buys your product from your shop and they go maybe through to Amazon, they still think they've bought it from Amazon. So you've got to love a shop that you're creating things. The biggest challenge you've got is to convert them from being and thinking they're an Amazon or an eBay customer to being one of your brand customers, one of your customers. So what you need to do is when somebody, we did this with a company locally, it was came through, they bought via eBay. The local shop got the email to say somebody's bought this by eBay. Now the first thing you need to do is to contact that customer and say thank you for buying from my shop, you know, and keep them up to date. So we had a series of 6 emails that reaffirmed each way along the stage that rather than saying Amazon has now dispatched your package, don't leave it to Amazon to send those emails. What's the customer process? You need to be telling them constantly, thank you for buying from our shop. We're now busy in our shop packing your goods. Your goods have now been sent from our shop to you. Tomorrow they will be delivered at this time from our shop. And then when that product arrives, make sure you've got something in print, like a little postcard that's a 10% thank you that says, if you come back to my website, here's an extra thank you. So it's the whole process of really understanding the touch points from the minute that somebody sends that email to you or picks up the phone or chats to you on social media, is to reinforce what your brand is all about. So we're nearly there now. But the other thing is, bang out to the print, is the real experience. You know, looking at the Sistine Chapel through, you know, something like this is never going to be the same as standing and smelling that air in the room and looking at that, being actually physically there. It's great we've got technology, but actually going to these things, actually meeting people face to face. At the moment, Zoom, as we've been using things, has been a substitute. It's been a great substitute for the year that we've had. But we're all craving those, wanting to catch up with people face to face. We're still having a conversation. Well, I'm talking to you at the moment, but if we were chatting in a Zoom chat now, we're still talking, we're still conversing, but it's not the same, is it, as actually being there and something real that we can share. And it's the same with, you know, the experience has gone in lots of these things. You know, when I guess when my dad was a kid, you know, it was the experience that a new album was out. It was the experience of, again, excited, the build-up. You couldn't get hold of this thing until it came out. The experience of going with your money, your pocket money on the bus, going in town with your mates and going in, and the energy and the excitement of listening to something in store for the first time. Whereas now I just get, oh, new Stereophonics album's out. I just listen to it because it's there. You know, it loses that craft, that experience in lots of these things. So again, going back to the storytelling, is use of social media to tell your story. Use press releases to celebrate what you're up to. You know, use print to an extension to match up to your digital offer. So how can you raise your brand awareness? Well, over the years, I've done loads of different things, which, you know, haven't cost the earth. They've just been thinking outside the box. So my friend ran with the Olympic torch in 2012. So of course I made sure that I got there with a t-shirt on so I could get pictures of me holding the torch. You know, we've had, when it was in the bottom left, that's my wife and I, it was our 5th birthday. Now, rather than just sending out putting a post on social media saying, yeah, it's 5 years of our business, we went and made our own wallpaper with our logo and we invited everybody to the office. Now, we had the tiniest office in the world where we had an open house for the day, and the mayor came along and drank 2 bottles of Prosecco. It was brilliant. Now, all the pictures that went out was an office full of people, and it looked like, again, perception, it looked like a really big deal. Now, we're coming up to our 10th year next year, so I'm probably going to, you know, hopefully we can go out and meet people again, but it's going to have to be bigger and better than our 5th year. So it's what you make of these things. Again, it's the storytelling. But in the middle there, I was asked to be graduation speaker at my former university, which was one of my highlights of my career. That came from me volunteering. I've volunteered to probably 15 schools and colleges across Somerset and Devon in the last, say, 10 years. And my ultimate aim was to get paid to go and lecture at university. You know, and one of the big things is to be in for the long game, you know, and that comes with networking or marketing or advertising. There's no point advertising your business once and expecting the phone to go crazy. It's not going to happen. It's like turning up to a party and expecting to leave and everybody thinks you're the coolest person in the room, you know? It takes time to do that, to nurture it. And I think that's one of the things is to look at opportunities where you can extend things. So when I launched my business in the first year in 2011, I looked out for traffic jams. There was actually down Staple Grove Road in Taunton, they were doing a lot of traffic work, and I actually stood there with some cue cards, A3 cards, and said, hello, I'm Paul from Word Gets Around, and I rotated the cards around. And people in their cars laughed, and of course it was great because I had a captive audience. The lights would change, the cars would move on, I get a load of new people. loads of people like my Facebook page. I got messages saying, "Oh, that was really fun. You know, that was a bit different." So I guess the message is think of things that you can do that if you help other people, it pays back to you. So doing stuff in the community, whether you're sponsoring community events, if you're, you know, things that I put up now on social media would never have got picked up and retweeted or shared by the people they do, because they didn't know who I was. There was a long time in me working that relationship and getting to you know, they understand what I'm about and getting to know them, that I was able to do that over time. And I say it's lots of different things that don't cost the earth. It's just celebrating your story and helping people out along the way. So raising brand awareness, there's lots of different things here that you can do. You can look at this list at another time, but of course, you know, writing your own book, don't forget print. It's still very, very relevant. You can link print to digital. You can track things just as well. We're using QR codes at the moment. Tim, that's on the chat here. We did a recent feature on Tim where there's a QR code that can go to his YouTube page. You can direct social media to YouTube, to different channels, to LinkedIn, to your blog. It's really placing lots of little touch points that all lead up to a network of brand equity that's built up over time. So that locally, you know, we have a good name locally because we spent a lot of time doing these things. And it's very much about relationships over time and doing bits of these things all together. So really, finally, it's an integrated approach. So doing things online, doing things offline, which is in print and local events, trade shows, etc. And of course, face-to-face is networking, which hopefully will be back very soon to lots of events. So that's me. I've talked for a very long time. You've been very patient. If anybody's got any questions, be happy to take them if you've got time. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks very much for that, Paul. Really, really interesting. And I think the big thing for me in particular is the fact that just how many brands you come into contact with before you've even left the house or even sort of logged onto your computer in the morning. And also that slide that you showed where actually you've miscoloured some of the brands and they automatically just looked wrong. And it is just how, sort of that perception of your brand, how everything that you need to do, you need to always be thinking of your brand, whether that's the colour, whether that's the logo, whether that's the sort of the font that you use and things like that. Because actually, the minute that you do something that's completely different, actually sort of you can often lose people in the message.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I mentioned sort of innocent smoothies is quite, I think they've been great in terms of, you know, I think they're part of Coca-Cola now. I think they bought them out, but they still have that they could almost be 20 people that work for them, even though they're a huge company, because the business has evolved, but the tone of voice is consistent, the fun element's consistent, in all their marketing, you know, it's consistent. And I think lots of people change stuff too much, and you know, when rebrands, for example, when you rebrand, we need to rebrand. Why do you need to rebrand? We just need to shake things up a bit. Whoa. You know, when you make changes to things, they make a huge impact on the perception of what people understand. If you just go and toss everything out and start again, or make too many different changes, whether I'm fed up of red, let's go and change colour, you know. But you know, and a good example, I guess, was Redberry Recruitment that merged, and they went from red to blue. And it was great to see the process of how they handled the marketing of informing people, this is happening, you know, we're changing to this name, it's evolving, the team is still there, that people don't think that it's just ended. It's taken, again, people on that journey, that they're with you as customers, that it continues, so you could hand it on. And I've worked with companies where they talked about changing the name. They've been adamant they're going to change the name. We've gone through the process of why and how that could damage their brand equity locally, because people go, oh, they've always been there. They've always been called this. The minute you change that, you have the upward struggle to spend money to educate people and bring people up to speed that this has happened and why. So in the end, we didn't change the name.
Great. So has anybody got any particular questions or any comments on what we've heard from Paul today? If you have, feel free to unmute yourself to ask or comment. I was going to say, now, is that a good thing or a bad thing, Paul?
Either way, I thought Teresa might have said something. Hi, Teresa.
Teresa's going to say something, yeah. It made me smile when you said about business cards, because obviously Paul helped me. and produced my business cards, and I didn't have a clue about weight or what they wanted to look like. But the number of people, when I hand them a card, go, oh, that's good quality, that's really nice. And it's such a simple thing, but you realise, and then especially when they go on and go, oh, some people have such cheap bendy ones and you stick them in your pocket and they get screwed up. So I know it's only a simple thing, but I thought that was excellent what you taught me there, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, I spoke to this guy once and at a trade show, and he was very much talking about his company. He was like, I don't know, he was going very much sort of on how big it is, and he was very much like, oh, we do this and we do that, we're the best of this, we're the best of that. And then after we chatted, he gave me a business card, and it was like a Hotmail address, and his mobile only, and no address on it. And the kind of credibility of him fell from my, oh, really? It's the lasting impression of what he'd done. He sort of fell at the last hurdle for me. Again, it's everything being consistent. So if you look at your social media channels, you know, do they tie into your, do they all look the same? Are they all saying the same message? Is your tone of voice consistent in what you say? It's difficult when you run your own business, because say it's an extension of you ultimately. And I guess if I was to sell Word Gets Around and somebody else to take on, I guess I would need to do some work in terms of building a document that documents all the stuff in my head that would need to be down for somebody to carry on that legacy of what we've built locally. But the bigger your business is, the more important it is, and why there's more time spent on branding is, and writing brand documents and looking at tone of voice. Little things from like how you answer the phone to how quickly you reply to emails or customer service inquiries. You know, that's why like companies spend, you know, millions of pounds on marketing things in a certain way, and that the staff are all on board as a tribe, so they're all part of an extension of that. So when I had friends university years ago who worked for Disney, for example, the onboarding process of working for Disney was quite intense, because you had to be the right person that was an advocate and shone the whole brand of Disney out to people. So for instance, the National Trust, you know, the National Trust as an organisation, the people that come on and represent the National Trust, there's pages and pages of how we do things, because it needs to be consistent, that if you go to this site in Dunster or somewhere else, that it's consistent the same way. The same as McDonald's, every restaurant, although they're franchise owned, they're owned independently, it needs to be consistent to the overall perception of what we understand by McDonald's, whether it's in Moscow or Taunton.
Great. Okay, final chance for any questions or comments before we finish this morning. No, I think we're all done. Well, can I just finish off this morning's session just by giving another thank you to Paul for putting that presentation together. I struggle with putting stuff together where I've got 10 slides. So to be fair, it was really great to have such a visual presentation. And I think it always sort of engages your brain a bit more when you're talking about visual stuff. And actually, there's a really good mix of things to sort of look at and think about. So just